difficult day?
Trust me, it's nothing special.
Imagine things are gonna change.
Yeah, sure. I mean, everyone's gonna go their own way, but we'll stay together.
Forever.
Some might fight with us. Some might fight against us. People we went to school with facing us on some battlefield.
She'll never forgive you, you know that? I reckon that's why you're here. Try and mend things after what you called her.
You think that you can hex and curse me all these years, and then you think that you can just brush me off. You have no idea what it's like to be me.
Gentlemen, the time has come once again to discuss things.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentlemen. I am Sid Part 2. Joining me today is Rasco of Rasco's Modern Life. Hello, Rasco.
Oi.
Oi. Oh god, please don't do a bad English accent for the entirety of this review.
I won't. Don't worry.
I thought you were getting ready to do that. I'm like, oh god, no. Don't. Anyway, before we get started on this review, I want you, the listener, to know that you can download episodes of Geeky Gentlemen. There's a link in the description. Download this episode so you can listen on the go. Old episodes can be uploaded for your downloading pleasure by request. Just check out the Geeky Gentlemen playlist. Leave a comment on an old episode, and it'll be uploaded to the downloading website for you. You can find old episodes of Geeky Gentlemen by checking out the Geeky Gentlemen playlist, so yada 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 yada. Alright, Rasco, what are we talking about today?
We're talking about Severus Snape and the Mauraders, a Harry Potter fan film.
Oh, god damn it.
I did that by accident, and then I realized that we had just said that I wasn't going to do that in the middle of me doing that.
Oh, good. It's going to be one of those episodes. Oh, man. Yeah, so this is actually a pretty popular fan film. I've seen it mentioned a couple times, and I thought about it, but just wasn't in much of a Harry Potter mood, so I hadn't picked it before. But I've just finished watching through all the movies again. I quite enjoyed Fantastic Beasts a couple months ago. So I figured it'd be a good time to talk about this. That's what you call reasoning behind picking a fan film, Rasco. I know you usually just go, oh shit, what am I going to pick? Probably like you will at the end of this episode. Let me guess, you don't have something chosen yet.
I will by the end, don't worry.
Oh, lovely.
This is probably good timing, though, because I also, like a week or so ago, watched all the Harry Potter movies back-to-back again, and I was like, oh, wow.
Yeah, I noticed quite a few problems that I never did before, because I don't think I remember watching all the movies like that, but, yeah. Still good flicks, good performances, all that jazz, but this isn't a review of the Harry Potter franchise. This is instead a review of the Harry Potter fan film, Severus Snape and the Mauraders. I guess the first thing I'm going to say is, I know why it's called Severus Snape and the Mauraders, but would you agree with me that it really should be called Severus Snape vs. the Mauraders?
I guess so.
I mean, that's what it is. It's just Severus fighting the Mauraders. It's like at least 75% of this.
True.
And it's called Severus Snape and the Mauraders because all the Harry Potter books are called Harry Potter and blah, 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 blah. So I feel like they named it that in that tradition, but I really feel like the proper title is Severus Snape versus the Mauraders.
True. Probably the case.
Uh-huh. Okay, so have you heard of this before or no?
No, I have not.
Okay. What'd you think?
I thought it was pretty good.
Okay, review over. Thank you, everyone. Please expound on that.
I think that this had really good actors, and a lot of things that fan films that normally distract me in fan films didn't distract me in this at all. And so acting is a part of that. I thought the actors were all really good. I thought the special effects were pretty good, and I thought that the score, I don't even know like who was behind that element of this, but score is something that almost always takes me out of a fan film. It didn't in this case, and that's good. And it was pretty well directed.
Yeah, I tend to agree with most of that. I'll take a little issue with the effects. Normally I wouldn't with effects in fan film, but this is a special case because they fundraised for this one.
Okay.
And I think the last fan film that I know there was fundraising for that we talked about that, you know, had a lot of effects-heavy stuff was Dragon Ball Z Fall of Men. And I haven't, you know, compared their fundraising to see how much one got and how much the other got. But you were just mentioning the score, and I know they spent a lot of money. I watched like some behind-the-scenes stuff with this. I know they spent a good deal of money that they raised on generating the score, and that's all fine and good. I feel like more of that should have been put toward the effects. This is a very effects-heavy fan film, and I'd say about 2/3 of them work just fine to pretty good. Then about 1/3 of them, I think, look kind of bad, and unfortunately those are the ones that are at really important points in the story. And maybe it's not that those were done in different ways or those were things they weren't capable of. Maybe it's because we're given more time with those. Because most of the effects that we see in this just flash by really quick, right?
Yeah.
But the effects that like really do stick out to me in a bad way are when Peter Pettigrew turns into a rat to run away.
Yeah, okay, I agree with that.
And when Snape is just beating the shit out of James Potter against that tree. I think the effects look really, really flat. Almost like one of those green screen effects. It looks a little too flat. It doesn't look like it's... Snape's moving his wand back and forth in kind of a sweeping arc kind of motion, and the effects that we see don't really look very curved to me. They just look kind of like straight lines. And so that kind of bothered me, and just it didn't look well integrated. It looked kind of just superimposed, composite on top of. Same with Peter Pettigrew. I thought when he turned into a rat and ran away, it didn't even look like they modeled a rat in CG or something. It looked like they just took a, transparent image of a rat from like Google and then put a blur effect and animated it really quickly. And, it just doesn't affect any of the grass around it when it walks away, nothing like that. It's on really briefly, so I guess that's a good choice if they didn't have the access to model something like that. But, I don't know, I just didn't think it was very well done.
Interesting. So, yeah, normally... I don't know. It's been so long since we recorded fan films. I'm forgetting. Who is the person that normally bitches about... I think it's me. I'm the one that bitches about effects when they weren't, like, people trying to do things they couldn't achieve. Normally I'm the one that bitches about that. But this one, everything else was to a certain level of quality that I would have felt like an asshole bringing that up. But I think it's fair for you, considering this is much more up your wheelhouse. That's just something I would never have criticized about this. But I'm not saying that they're unfair. I just wouldn't know myself.
It's just like I don't know how they did it because I haven't seen anything on their channel going behind the scenes of how the effects were put together. Thing is, they spent a year in post though.
Woo.
They did a year to get everything together, fundraise, all that stuff, scouting actors. They did actually get, real actors. Not just people they knew. They got people who wanted to act in this and are in... This was all shot in L.A. from what I understand. And so they got people together as, official actors and all that stuff. And I think that was a very good decision because it does add a certain level of gravitas. I thought the getting an original score put together, there's a video on their channel where you can see kind of behind the scenes of like the actual score being recorded, and I think that was a pretty good decision. But I don't know, it creates kind of this interesting juxtaposition where I feel like they maybe funneled their money in the wrong direction, or maybe they felt overly confident in the effects budget. But this is a very effects-heavy thing, so I'd feel weird not talking about it.
Yeah.
Like most Harry Potter things, very effects-heavy.
Okay, so it's interesting. I'm putting a tough place now, because, like I said, one of the things that I really have to commend this on is that it doesn't have just... normally, it's like... It's not that, like, fan film score is bad. It's just, like, I almost have to, like, tune it out. Because it almost sometimes feels like a parody when I hear, like, not quite on the level score. It almost feels like it's the kind of score you'd put in, like, a parody of something serious in, like, a movie or something. Like, they'd be watching this on TV. Not this fan film. I'm talking about, like, the scores of other fan films. But it really did work for me. And when you bring up how, like, the allocation of the budget, it's, like... it's not like they didn't get their money's worth investing it in score, but you make a good point in that, like, it is so effects heavy that for this story, maybe that wasn't necessary. It's tough, though.
Well, I mean, part of it is you have John Williams' score to work with, right? You already have the Harry Potter score. So it's... And, you don't want to risk getting the copyright strike. I understand that puts them in a hard place. It's a very tricky issue. And interestingly, there's been some research done on this where having good sound, not only of the score, but of sound effects and all that stuff, which none of that is a problem, having good quality sound in your production will actively make it better than, or will make people like it more than they otherwise would. If you have something that's like, let's say, a B+ in quality all around, for visuals, acting, effects, all that stuff. You have something that's a B+ all around, but you have an A+ score and sound design, people will think it's better than it really is. They will appreciate it more because the sound is such a subtle element of it that it just works for them, and it makes them appreciate it more. So, like, you can have a fan film, like the Black Panther Deadpool fan film, for example. That's a good thing to call back to. Because you remember, it looked like really good, crisp visuals, right? But you were so damn distracted by the inconsistent audio in that one.
Yeah.
That, like, it took you out of it, so you couldn't appreciate the other things. This has really great audio, including the score. I will definitely agree. I think that does pay off really well for it. I still feel like it maybe put it in the wrong place, since, like, they could still put all the same resources into their sound design, sound mixing, but have gone with the pre-existing score and just taken the risk on the copyright strike, upload it to Vimeo as opposed to YouTube, and probably been fine, and then they could have put more of that budget to the effects.
It's interesting. I'm trying to think, because in certain films, film series, like, there are kind of rules within them that aren't really, like, spoken rules, but they are there. It's like some movies, it'll be like, score is used in certain kinds of scenes, but not others. And I'm trying to think back to Harry Potter, because one of the things I'm thinking about is, in Harry Potter, when people duel, isn't there typically no score in those moments?
There's never been a duel in Harry Potter as long as this. Even the one with Snape and Dumbledore. Or not Snape, Voldemort and Dumbledore.
Mm-hmm.
That's, I think, just having watched them all, and I didn't sit there and time it out, but I'm pretty sure that is the single longest duel just between, two people that we have. There's some other stuff that happens in Order of the Phoenix where it's action scenes, but it's like broken up by dialogue.
Yeah.
That's not really here. Like, we occasionally cut to the sidelines with the other three Marauders, but that ends really quickly. And, we get, like, a quick break in the action as Snape runs away from the big fireball curse thing. But I don't think there's a single duel that lasts half as long as this thing does. That being said, if there's score to it, there's subtle score, but not as overpowering as this is. Because this gets, like, really intense score and sound mixing in here. And I say that knowing that I might be wrong. Like, I can't, don't quote me on that one, but I'm, like, 70% confident I'm right saying that.
Yeah. I don't think that there's... Are you still there, by the way?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. You just were quiet for a second. I'm thinking back... I almost feel like maybe you could have... Cause it's weird, because like, now that I'm thinking about this, if you almost did like a shorter duel that wasn't so lengthy, and then didn't have much score going on during that, then I feel like... I just feel like now that you've brought up the effects, and you've brought up that there was a lot of fundraising, I feel like I have to agree that they could have probably allocated their money better.
Yeah, and so it's weird because I don't think we've ever talked about effects or score this much in a fan film before. But it's one of those things where, like, I am very much into digital effects. I like to see good digital effects, and as I've said it a million times on this show, it's getting easier and easier. Not that it's easy, but it's easier than it was every year to make good quality effects on a lower and lower budget. The programs are getting more sophisticated and more widely used. That being said, I still think that I would give, like I said, I think 2/3 of the effects are fine. The remaining third, I would totally be okay with. It's just, in any other thing, it's just that I know they fundraised for this. So I'm a little bit harder on for that specific reason. I'm going to be a little bit more critical. Like, there's a world of difference between when you're able to fundraise and you're able to actually hire some work out to professional studios, and when you're able to just, you work with what you have on your own, like, system and the people that you know in your own life. If it was something where they weren't able to fundraise and they just had to work within their completely own limitations like that, I would not have any problem with any of these effects. It is entirely the budgets that makes me as critical as they are. And once again, I don't think they're bad. I just think that they don't quite fit with some of the other stuff we see.
And that's pretty fair.
Okay, you take us somewhere then. Since I got us through like half the episode on score and effects.
So, Snape whooped their asses.
Right?
He kicked some ass. My question is, should he have been able to kick off their asses that easily?
I mean, I wouldn't call it easy.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't call it easy either. But should he be able to, like, just destroy them all like that?
They do establish pretty early on that he's known more, like, I think it's Peter Pettigrew has that line, he's known more spells than we do now since first year. And it's a pretty good qualifier. And I think it's the fifth Harry Potter movie that we see, or is it sixth? Fuck if I know. That we see Harry, that flashback where James is bullying Snape.
I think that's the fifth film.
Gotcha. Yeah, so like we have moments here and there where like we know very little about how powerful Snape is because he doesn't really do all that much in the movies, right? Mm-hmm. as far as his own capabilities of magic, like we see Dumbledore do some pretty friggin' epic ass shit, like in the 6th movie with that fucking sets the whole goddamn lake on fire and shit. That was pretty epic. Snape, we never really see him do anything incredible, but if you look at Half-Blood Prince and we look at his school books to the point where he's correcting the school books on methods for potion making, and he's creating his own spells.
Yeah.
I think that would be a pretty fair indication that he is a very, very good wizard.
Yeah, especially if he's been bullied multiple times by them. He would also have, like, the most experience of anyone taking on multiple wizards at once.
Yeah, and especially since, like, he's just obvious. And, like, there's also the idea and a lot of stuff that deals with, like, magic, that emotional intent at the time matters. And that is part of Harry Potter, too. Like, in the 5th movie, he curses Bellatrix, and Harry curses Bellatrix with the Crucio, the torture curse, and then he's about to do the Avada Kedavra when he hears, like, Voldemort in his head say, "You have to mean it." Like, so you can't just, like, accidentally Avada Kedavra somebody. You have to, like, really be trying to do it. You have to have an intention behind the magic. At least most of the time. There's probably some inconsistencies there, but yeah. There has to be a will behind the wand, I guess I'd call it. So I think the emotional place that the character is at in this completely justifies his ability to take them on. Because they're all, like, none of their hearts are in it. Not, James is the only one that really wants to actively fight Snape. Everyone else is kind of just there to protect their friend. And so none of them want to really hurt Snape the same way James does.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. I just wanted I'm buying it now. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't, like, falling for it and just, like, it was completely ridiculous to you.
No, I wasn't disappointed with any of that. I thought that was all very, very consistent with the little we've seen of Snape. I think that was totally fair to do. And like, I watched a live stream that I wouldn't recommend because the quality's just terrible, but I watched a live stream with the cast, the writer, director, and he talked about, like, doing a lot of research into what is canon and not canon with Snape and James's relationship and all that stuff, so I was fairly impressed with what I was able to figure out there. Or what he was able to integrate in subtle ways here, rather.
Awesome. Yeah, one of my favorite things about Harry Potter is just Snape as a character. I think it's really cool that, like, he was kind of like the Harry Potter of his generation almost. And kind of, but he kind of, like, is like reverse Harry Potter, where it only gets shittier for him, whereas, like, it starts off really shitty for Harry, gets kind of good, it gets kind of shitty, but then is good in the end. Snape has, like, the opposite, where, like, it's, like, reverse, where he has, like, a good young childhood with Lily, then it gets shitty, and then it just kind of stays shitty forever.
Fair enough. I guess I hadn't thought of it that way.
It's like poetry, it rhymes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Snape's one of the most complicated characters in the franchise. I remember in high school, before the last book had come out, there was this girl I was talking to at the time, and she was like, "Oh, I hate Snape for killing Dumbledore, yada, yada, yada." I'm like, "Oh, no, Dumbledore made him do it. I promise you Dumbledore made him do it." And I had, like, a bet going with this girl. I'm like, okay, when the 7th book comes out, I'm going to tell you, like, what was Dumbledore's last words? It was, "Severus, please." I'm telling you, he was begging Snape to kill him. And when the last book came out, what do we find out? Dumbledore wanted Snape to kill him. That was the plan.
And you roasted that girl.
Yeah. I won the bet, but she never paid up.
Oh.
Bitch.
Should have cursed her.
Yeah, I should have done a Crucio or something. No, but Snape is definitely one of the most fascinating characters. I love the way that they portray that here, where, you know, I don't mean this to sound tactless, but it's not inaccurate. He's a Columbine kid, right?
Yeah. Beta male cuck.
No, but like really, that's what Snape is here. He's a kid that was bullied all his life, and so that led him to a very particular set of choices that he wanted to make, and those choices put him on, you know, wrong side of history.
Yeah.
It's important to remember Snape joined the Death Eaters willingly, and because of that, and eventually came back over to the right side. He's a very morally complex character, and I really like that about him. And this gives you a very believable setup for why someone would choose to go down that kind of path.
Yeah. Especially when when you're bullied like that, you really don't have like people to go out with and hang out with and do shit with and, you know, like live with. And so you really only have the things that like matter to you that you can do on your own. And so like just learning magic and potions and all of that kind of stuff and becoming so talented at what you are because of your isolation. Yep. And then like having someone that's like, I think that you have the kind of skills that like would make you great for us because we're looking for people like you. It's very easy to become seduced that way. Yep,
certainly. And that's exactly what happens here. I noticed people were complaining about this, and I'm kind of two minds of it. I've heard the official explanation from the creator, and I don't know how much I buy it, so I want to pick your brain a little bit about it. Do you feel that it's contradictory for Snape to join Voldemort when Lily tells him that she's willing to forgive him if he's willing to make changes in his life, like stop hanging out with dark wizards?
I don't know. It's irritating because it's like on Lily's end, she's hanging out with a total asshole.
Yeah, but he's on the right side of history, right?
Yeah.
James is just an absolute ass in it. Fuck Harry Potter's dad.
Yeah. And again, that's what I really like about that reveal in Harry Potter, that his dad was kind of like Snape's Malfoy.
Yep.
And so it's like, you know, that's a great anti-bullying message. Like, you wouldn't want your kid to be bullied, so don't be the bully yourself. Like, I don't know. That's just one of my favorite little things about Harry Potter that you would have never guessed from book one, but like...
Oh, totally.
And it's just kind of cool. So, I think that, yeah, like in Lily's case, it's like you're hanging out with a giant asshole. And it's not that he's just like he's specifically an asshole to Snape, right? And so like, there's that moment there at the end where he just kind of like is like looking at her like coming to James's aid, and I just feel like I'd be like, fuck you! What the hell you're just telling me to like deal with shit and like reject the only people that I've ever been comfortable around that have accepted me. And meanwhile, you're in a relationship with this asshole who torments me all the time. Why would I listen to you?
See, I didn't get that interpretation from it, but I can see that too. And that might be part of it. The interpretation I got was he doesn't feel like it'll be worth giving up those relationships because he's never going to be with her now anyway. He knows that she's... Like, her forgiveness isn't enough for him.
Yeah.
He wants her love, right?
Yeah.
So, like, him wringing out his heart, him apologizing to her, it does really break him to do that. And then instead of being awarded for it, he's forgiven for fighting James. Which really is, he's forgiven for defending himself.
Yeah.
But he's not forgiven for... he knows that he has the opportunity to be forgiven, but that's it. Just be forgiven, nothing else. And so I think he just kind of... I think going to Voldemort at the end kind of closes the door on... Like, is him closing that door off to himself. Just accepting, I don't want her forgiveness then. Yeah, it's really... The explanation they gave in the live cast that the crew gave was, it is such a hard decision. He's at a crossroads, and Voldemort just comes around at the right time for that crossroads, whereas Lily does not. And that's also a satisfying explanation. I think you can read either of our interpretations into that.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's a problem with it, certainly.
I don't think it's a problem either.
Okay. Speaking about Voldemort, what do you think of Voldemort?
I heard someone say in the I read a comment where someone said that he shouldn't look like Voldemort at that point in history.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the case.
It was interesting because they were talking about this too, and it was something that initially bothered me as well, because my thinking was, you probably shouldn't have made him look like Voldemort if you couldn't really lose his nose.
That's also something I was going to bring up, because don't they just use CG to get rid of his nose when they're actually filming those movies?
Yeah. The explanation they gave, and I don't know how much credit this deserves or not, if nothing else, it's a really good bullshit answer, right? The explanation they gave is, he's not all the way to Voldemort yet, but he's already created several Horcruxes by this point, so he's slowly becoming that. So he has the white skin, he still has the nose, but it's fading away, basically. So he's not young man, still with full head of hair and all that stuff, that he was when he left Hogwarts or whatever.
Yeah.
But he's not Voldemort that we see from the fourth movie on, either. So I don't know how satisfied I am with that explanation. He goes into a bit of continuity to justify it and stuff. I don't know how satisfied I am with that explanation, but they did apparently think about it, if nothing else.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair explanation. The only thing is, it's one of those things where your mind will never jump to that justification for it. Immediately your mind's going to go to, oh, they couldn't really, just get rid of his nose completely.
That's my thing, too. That's exactly what I thought. It was you shouldn't... I feel like they tried to do their best to get rid of the nose, and then just decided they couldn't do it. And so they're like, all right, well, we'll kind of see if we can make some kind of explanation around this after the fact. What I would have preferred, just for me personally, is do something more apparent that it's halfway. Give him the eyes, give him the pale skin, maybe make his nostrils thinner, but don't, look like you're trying to get rid of his nose yet.
Or what I would have done is, because then this immediately would get you to think, oh, he's in the progression to becoming the Voldemort that we know from the Harry Potter films. What I would have done is, take it back. Make him, in the earlier stages of starting to look like a lizard man. Maybe give him some, weird kind of, skin around the sides of his face and, weird lizard eyes or some shit like that.
And I think the problem with going too far back is then he just looks like some weird-looking dude, and it doesn't go Voldemort, right?
Yeah. You'd have to,
because there's no denying, as soon as you see him in this, that's Voldemort. You know it. It gets the message across. How well it does that and how distracting the makeup effects are is certainly debatable. Oh, and just little side note, not anything against the fan film creators. I'm sure the guy that did the makeup here did as good a job as he possibly could. This is an example of why makeup isn't the go-to solution for everything. People always go, oh, practical effects. No, see, because they tried for crazy to get that nose away. And the only way that they could have done it like that in the movies is to go even further, in which case the actor would be wearing 10 pounds of makeup on his face and wouldn't be able to frickin' act.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Just gonna, root for my digital effects a little bit more.
How dare you? You're a
Yeah.
You're a CG fascist.
Oh, man. I'm trying to think if I have anything else to say about this. I think I'm ready to go on ratings. How about you? You got anything else you wanted to talk about with it?
I think I'm good. I think we can go to ratings now.
All right. I've been really hard on this one, I feel, but in the most constructive way I possibly could. That all being said, I still think this is really, really good. There's a lot of fascinating stuff going on here. Characters, story-wise, it's a really good sense of a prequel. It's not fan servicey at all, in my opinion. I really, really enjoyed this. So I'm going to give this a 4.5 out of 5 Crucio Curses. Okay.
Our rating, we're in the same mindset when it comes to the things that we're using for our ratings. I'm going to give this... I also think that this is, like I said, a lot of the things that I typically will go to in other fan films, I couldn't complain about here. Mm-hmm. So that means a lot because, like score, I mentioned that, acting, all of that stuff really worked. So at the end of the day, I also am going to give this a 4.5 Sectum Sempras out of 5.
All right. Brasco, what are we going to be talking about next time?
Next time, we're going to be talking about a fan film that I just found, and it came out in 2012, but I have never seen this, and I'm really surprised that I haven't, and it's called Aliens Epilogue.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Sounds like a plan. Alright, everyone, thanks very much for watching. Till next time, I'm the Philosopher.
And I'm the Squampus.
And we are your geeky gentlemen, and we will be discussing things.